Hey, fun little story on this next game. Now, I've set up the board so that the black are on our side because I want to focus on the player with the black pieces who happen to be a player that we all know, George Hatfield Dingley Gossip. You've never heard of him, have you? Neither did I. He was virtually forgotten. However, the bibliophiles who study his theory of the chess openings, which is one of the first encyclopedic efforts, have heard about this guy. Somehow, he's an Australian. He somehow got invited to the first great American international event, the Mammoth Double Round New York Chess Tournament of 1889. Now, in a field of 20 players, he finished 17th. So he didn't do so hot. He was behind Max Weiss, of course, and Chigorin, of course. But the game he played against one of the real men of chess of that day, Jackson Whips Showalter. He was known as the Kentucky Lion because he tore his victims apart. So let's look at this game between Gossip and Lion, and let me show you a spectacular game. E4, E5 to start it out. Knight F3, Knight C6. Here we go. We're on the way to a really good game. D4 hitting the center, of course, and Gossip takes the pawn, and the knight will take the pawn for white. And Gossip, not to be deterred, went knight f6, brought his other knight out. Now, the interesting thing is, he proceeded to attack the knight, and the b pawn took the knight. So after the opening, we have one pawn in the center, and we have a knight and a small pawn, and these are actually doubled up pawns on the c file. Not a very promising start for black. Now, the bishop comes out. Now, and this today, we don't normally put the bishop here because it just ends up looking like a tall pawn, right? Interestingly enough, here he comes again, attacking the center. And he pushes the e pawn to push the knight away. Very interesting situation here. And so he puts the knight to g4. So Gossip is bringing a knight forward, and his opponent will castle, and he does castle. And now bishop comes to c5. So they're getting developed. They're bringing them out. They're bringing the forces out. The bishop is going to come to f4. Now he bumps g5. Now this is a kind of a interesting idea, but it doesn't quite jive. The bishop will come back to d2, and now the knight will take e5. So black has accounted himself really excellent in the center here. And white is not too far behind in development, if he is behind at all. So this could be a really good game. And now he grabs, pinning the knight to the king. Whenever you see the king or the queen across an aisle, bop a rook across from him. That's dangerous. Even if there's junk between them, doesn't matter. Put that rook across from a king or a queen. That is always a wonderful move. Look what Gossip does. He puts the queen in front of the king? Come on, dude, no. Knight c3, going to continue with their development. Bishop d7, going to bring out more pieces still. Queen h5. Here we go. Now, this is the signal. There's no question. This is the signal. We are going to see an attack by white against Gossip. Queen h5 is absolutely, but Gossip does something interesting that got him an exclamation point. He castled queenside. So his most powerful piece ends up being on the wrong side of the board for white. Interesting. Let's see if he can rectify this. White will take the g5. Beautiful viewer of the queen and the rook. Did you see that? If you can ever see on a diagonal two pieces, keep your bishops handy, because this is a fantastic tactic against two of the most best pieces of black. The most best. Boy, great English tonight, isn't it? So bishop takes the pawn with terrific tempo. And of course, come on, he had the F pawn, right? So you bump the pawn up in front. Yeah. Queen comes to H. No, I'm sorry. Bishop, yeah, queen. My handwriting sucks. Bishop goes to H4. And now queen comes over here to G7. What I said about rooks across from kings, although he very intelligently castled, the same thing with queens. Queens put across from the opposing king, if at all possible. So now black is announcing, well, I have attacking aspirations of my own. So let's keep an eye, an overall impression on this board, because things are going to start happening. Watch this. Bishop all of a sudden says, hey, yeah, you got away from my queen, but I got a bishop over here that says, I want your king. Check. Very cool. King goes to B8. Nothing major just yet, but let's watch what happens. So the bishop comes up to here. He's made a little bit of a detour, but look where he's pointing now. Nice. And he's got a cross check with the bishop here. The pawn has taken, so that bishop is secure. Very interesting cross check here on black. So you have to play heads up chess. The rook comes behind the queen across from the king. Now the bishop, which is a very powerful defender of the castle king, is also here. And the queen is not too far from the king. So white's king is not all that dangerous. It's not in danger, not a whole lot more than the black king is, but they're both trying to tell each other, okay, we're going to fight, because we don't have a castle. We have a castle on the king side and the castle on the queen side. So of course the idea is fight, 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 attack, attack, get the king, right? Queen D1. Come on back home. Now what this will do is the queen isn't doing anything over here anymore. So it's time to relocate her and get her in a better spot. That's what he's doing, right? So, and that actually makes sense. Keep your eye peeled. The knight is prancing. You've got a rook and a queen on the G. Now you got your knight in there, and you have your bishop going here. And the unsung hero so far is this bishop pinning the pawn to the king. the F pawn. Interesting setup. Black seems to be going about it quietly. I just wanted to point this out to you. Bishop comes back home, F1, because over here it's not doing a lot. If it's not doing a lot, you relocate it to a better spot. But F1, yes, because it supports the king pawn, the G pawn in front of the king, and you have a battery here. So this is heads up chess for both players, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's very interesting how they play this. Now knight will come to E5. Watch the magic. B4. Now, here comes the queenside rush against the king, right? So B4, and now bishop comes to G4. Here we go. Queen is going to come to B1. Once again, illustrating the excellent concept. Put your queen across from the king, and there's only a pawn between you. Even if there's 3 or 4 items between them, this is always a good idea to do. This is always a good idea to. You got 3 pieces between you. Doesn't matter. That's where to put your rooks and queen. That's where to put your queen across from the king. This is good stuff. This is really, really good stuff. Bishop to D4 now. The bishop does not want that pawn to get out of that file, right? So queen to B3. Queen bumps up, touching this pawn across from the rook. The knight is touching this pawn. Yeah, I agree. It's guarded. But I'm just pointing out to you, there's pressure being built up against this pawn. There's pressure against the knight, guarded once, but attacked twice. You want to keep your eye sharp on that, because if he wanted to end up exchanging and getting rid of a powerful central knight, white can do so. So you want to see the overall process of both your game and your opponent's game. Very important point for this. Queen bumps up, touching the pawn, H5. So this is the trumpet. This is where black says, you're not safe. I'm coming after you. Because he's going to use the pawn as a battery. For all intents and purposes, this is the point of pushing the pawn. You've doubled up the rook and the queen, right? You've got your bishop over there. You've got your knight. Now, your knight, you've moved away off into the center, but it can easily jump into here really, really quick. And even possibly sacrifice itself to open up that king side, the G pawn taking that knight. That might be a nice sacrifice for this reason, and we see it. What's on the G file? See how that might work out? So the knight, even though it looks like he shuffled off and away, he really didn't. He's right there in the center where he belongs. And again, that pawn is pinned. Very interesting setup here. Rook A to B1. Now here's the other battery. See, he can run this pawn down and start opening up the king. Even though the king is open, he's got now a queen and a rook across from the opposing king. So you have to be careful here. So here's the question with this game that kind of helps us improve our thinking strength in a game of chess. That's a major announcement. I mean, you can't downplay this. That is a major announcement. I'm coming after you. Also, let's be cognizant of the fact that there is a knight here. Now, the knight's not pinned. Now, it's not hanging, but it's not pinned, so that knight can move, and it's got capabilities of jumping into that king right now, right? So how do we defend our king, which is somewhat loose? The black king is much looser than the white king. There's no question about that. The white king has all of his ducks in a row. He has a very powerful defender with the bishop. He has another very powerful defender with the bishop, and the rook isn't too far behind. And the rooks are connected on the first row. So that's not a bad setup. This is a safer king than this one is. So how do we prepare for the onslaught that's he's obviously building for it? You don't have to look the other way and imagine and pretend, well, no, he's not really attacking me. Yes, he is. So what do we do here? This is a way to get us out of beginner mode and get on with it. We ignore it. And we proceed forward. That's good chess. So now the bishop will take the pawn, and you say, okay, you threw the pawn up there, and the bishop takes the pawn. How is that progress? I'm really glad you asked. Because we prepare for the attack by having a good offense, which is our defense. Knight f3, check, and a fork to the rook. Fork the rook and the king. Why is the offense a good defense? Because white has no time to go after the black king. And two of his very powerful pieces are over here, along with a very, very noble steed here. And yet, he's being attacked over here. So we're ignoring this. Watch how this works. Again, the sacrifice of the knight, the G pawn, and now look at the potential for a discovered check on the white king. This is huge. This is really, really huge. The queen bishop takes the pawn with a discovered check here, eliminating the pawn and opening up the king because of the sacrifice of the knight. Now, this is the Kentucky Lion. This guy tore through his opponents, and right now, Black's showing him how to play chess for one simple reason, and this is the emphasis of this game, is why I wanted to show you this truly incredible game. Even though it was way back in 1889, you think, well, there's nothing relevant there. Oh, yes, there is. He did not lose sight of his plan. He's attacking by responding to his opponent, nor did he all of a sudden start shifting power over here to defend his king, because that is attack mode there. Lining up the rook and the queen and having the knight over there, and that pawn is a battery. That's an attack, but he doesn't have time to, because he never quit attacking the white players, the white king. This is key. This is so key here. So what does white do? Well, bishop can come back to g3. Have you noticed the role that this bishop is playing in defending the king? It is a very strong piece. And of course, it's absolutely rock solid. Two pawns supporting that bishop. The king is now safe again. This is a terrific fortress around the king. So what does gossip do now? Now does he say, okay, well, he's secured that. Now I have a chance to go secure my king. Blam! Queen takes the strong bishop, who is solidly supported. Or is he? Did we forget that this pawn is pinned? So it can't take the queen. And so it doesn't matter. You're going to lose the queen anyway. This pawn isn't pinned, and you just lost the queen. Correct. We eliminated the defender. Ignoring his threat, we have stronger threats. We eliminated the defender, and now we keep going with the rook. He sacrifices the queen. He sacrifices the rook. Except he didn't sacrifice the rook because the combination is so beautiful that the king only has one square. H2. And now bishop takes F2. Oh, the net is closing in. This combination, black is putting on a show, man. So the bishop comes up here to H3, trying his best to protect his monarch, and the rook takes H3. He says, out of here. Not happening. Not on my watch. So the king takes the rook. So black is willing to go down the exchange. And of course, the finale. Bring the other rook in. Checkmate. Now, this game is 100% relevant for us, even though it was played 130 years ago. For this reason, the best defense is your own offense. Black never slowed down in his attack. And that's what I want you to remember. Watch this video a few times. This was a great setup. It's not that white was weak, you guys. White was not weak. He had the open file. Did you once see that rook use that open file? No, we did not. Did we see the black rook use his open file? Yes, we did. We saw the queen use the file and sacrificed herself. We saw the rook use the file and then got rid of one of the defenders, which gave a chance to open up the other file. And he came over with the second rook and used that file because black ignored the threat, which was very real. He went on about his own business. That's the key to this game. Fantastic game to really get that. You do not have to react to your opponent. That is a higher level of thinking in chess that we can begin to put into our games, just like this guy did 130 years ago. And in that 130 years, of course, the principle has not changed at all. It is the same today, whether speed chess, blitz chess, fast chess, classical chess, it does not matter. This principle is a universal principle. You do not need to react all the time to everything your opponent does. And in fact, If you can find a way, ignore your opponent and carry on with your own plan. And Lasker's rule plays into this. The great Emmanuel Lasker, world champion for 27 years, said, when you see a good move, stop and find a better one. That's key. That rule will never change throughout the history of chess because it's so ground fundamentally true and accurate. Same thing with this principle. Don't worry about your opponent's threats. If you can find a way to continue on, even if it costs you material, then you continue on with your plan. I love that game. That is one of my favorite games. And it was so long ago. And it's been virtually forgotten today, but what a lesson in that chess game. So thanks for watching the Backyard Professor videos. Much more coming to you. I'm putting out a lot of shorts that are giving a lot of cool ideas on videos as well. I'm doing some puzzles. I want to start doing a little bit of tactics. I'm showing you short games that are absolutely breathtaking, etc. Keep on watching. I have a boatload more. Thank you for all of your support, for your love, for your excitement. We're motating here. We're having a good time. We're learning together. We're laughing together. We're in awe together at what great chess looks like, and we are improving together. Be good, do well, have fun, make lots of friends, stay happy, and I will see you in the next Backyard Professor chess video, which is coming very soon.